From an early age, Erskine Ramsey Faush was given a gift, a voice that would influence those around him. While serving as pastor of Metropolitan AME Zion Church, his voice resonated nationally.
His work across the country in the AME Zion Church as a leader, as a thought leader, really helped to shape, guide some of the principles that we follow now. And if you ask anybody in Zion, which has 1 million members worldwide, that he was one of those guys who really helped to shape who the church is today. We're called the Freedom Church, the church of Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass and Sojourner Truth and those guys. And so he was sort of living and embodied who they were to make us remember not just who we are, but who we can be.
As you know, he was, for a long time, the pastor of the largest AME Zion church in Alabama, Metropolitan AME Zion, where he provided inspiration for my law partner and his parishioner, Oscar Adams Jr., the first black justice on the Alabama Supreme Court. And Reverend Faush was very, very supportive of that effort.
As a young boy growing up in Bessemer, Alabama, I looked for role models, people who inspired me, and I found that in my parents, of course, and I found it in the friends of my parents, but I also found it in Dr. Faush. I can still remember those days and that I listened to him on the radio. Had a melodious voice, and I've come to learn later in life that it was referred to as the sweetest voice this side of heaven.
Reverend Faush was clearly the most erudite and polished radio announcer, as far as I'm concerned, in the country. I lived in New York for 3 years and visited Los Angeles regularly, have relatives in Chicago, and I have not heard a better radio religious announcer than Reverend Faush.
I knew that I could never sound like him, but he encouraged me and motivated me to want to be able to communicate with people. He motivated me, and I'm sure he motivated others.
Reverend Faush's popularity grew as a communicator, both from the pulpit and from the radio station, where his popular broadcast influenced the civil rights movement.
You know, his gig was not to protest. He had this microphone every day. And at the time that he was talking, everybody listened.
During the movement, Reverend Faush and Shelley the Playboy and Tall Paul had a way of transmitting codes to us demonstrators. And we would know by virtue of the messages that they sent covertly that at a certain time we were to be at a certain place, and when extra demonstrators were needed, they would communicate surreptitiously that need, and the additional demonstrators would show up.
A pleasant good morning and welcome to Gospel Cavalcade, the Faush broadcast. The signal was a certain record that I was going to play that morning of the demonstration. And I remember exactly what song it was. It was a song by the then Highway QCs. This is the group that Sam Cooke came from at the time of the demonstrations, though Spencer Taylor and the QCs had a very popular song called All Men Are Made by God.
In his messages on the radio, the nonviolent approach was always emphasized, and the emphasis on dealing with these significant problems with love and understanding was always conveyed by him.
They had all the guns, but we had a purpose, a destiny, a character, a personality. We had what we felt at the time was a divine destiny that must be reached, and it has to include your working with the Creator to bring about that change.
And so it was a vital part, a very symbiotic element of the civil rights movement back in the early 60s.
Over the years, through his words and actions, Reverend Faush continued to champion human rights in the community. It was that passion that led him to develop the Faush Metropolitan Manor, a 50-unit affordable housing community in Birmingham, Alabama.
We would go to Woodlawn every Sunday after church and look at a pile of dirt. There was nothing there. And every Sunday I would wonder, why are we looking at this pile of dirt? Well, eventually I found out that he was trying to build this facility.
It was named after the church, Metropolitan Manor is what we called it. It was later named Faush Metropolitan Manor, after Reverend Faush. He cares so much about people, and he wants to provide wonderful experience for senior citizens in their later years. It's so seldom that you find someone who has such talent in the diversity, and that whether he was going to be a businessman, he was going to be a pastor, he was going to be a broadcaster, he was going to be a disc jockey, or he was going to raise money, he was going to be a civil rights leader. He was so outstanding in all of those areas. And you stop and think about it, we've had a lot of heroes in each of those areas, but we've had very few that were outstanding in all of those areas.
Some people live their lives with intent and effort to make where they live in the world a little bit better. And I think that describes Dr. Faush. The things that he has done over the years, the fact that he has had such a positive impact on people and on this community is something that I'm just very pleased that he is being recognized for.
There is a meaning to every life. I believe that we have a mission in life, and we are equipped with certain talents and gifts, and if we do not use them, we have missed the opportunity of life. So I feel exceptionally blessed that I was given a microphone when I didn't know its power. I was given a chair to sit in when there was no place to sit. Was there a job somewhere that needed to be done that I just happened to be on the corner that it happened? I don't believe that. I believe that we are given gifts, and you are important. And if you really want that result from what you do, to know that you've made a difference, take time to look around you. Don't pass so fast.
my joy in the times of sorrow. God is my all and all. God He guides me along my way. The love of God never let me stray. The love of God makes me go when I'm right. Oh, that He will lead me to the light. The love of God walks and He talks with me. The love of God makes these old eyes of mine to see. The love of God is always by my side. The love of God, Lord, and one day you told me you'd be my God. In my comfort when I feel all alone. Oh, the love of God would pick you up